Hello everybody, welcome back. This is going to be a two-part build. What I want to do is I want to build a Leering skeleton, the ones that are kind of holding a lantern, the twisting at the waist, kind of swaying back and forth. And then I also need to build myself a new mausoleum. A couple years back, we had to put a roof on the house. I actually sold all that stuff off. So I need to build some new ones, which is kind of cool because I get to change them up a little bit and make new stuff and stuff like that. So it's going to essentially be a Leering skeleton that's going to be standing in the doorway of a mausoleum and stuff like that. So that's essentially the game plan for this particular video. So let's go ahead and get started on this and see how this one turns out. I'm building the leg section out of metal because I don't plan on using the whole skeleton. I plan on putting some kind of clothes on him. So it's just going to be easier for me to build a support system for the whole lower half instead of trying to build something to support the whole skeleton. Okay, to kind of show you where I'm at with this particular project. Now you saw where I got the legs welded up. I welded a piece of steel plate on there and this plywood. This plywood is for me to mount my motor and stuff like that on. Now if you ain't got a welder, you ain't got to worry about doing the steel. You can do this at 2x4s. Especially if you plan on putting pants or something like that on them and you're not going to see the legs anyways, 2x4s would be more than adequate. But the thing I really want to show you about what I'm doing with this particular project is this portion right here, the actual twisting portion of what I'm using. Now this is just a caster wheel carriage right here. That's all this is. Now a lot of times if I get like old caster wheels where the carriage is perfectly fine, but say it's like a hard plastic one and the wheels got broken and stuff like that, I hold on to these things because one, they have a nice mounting system on them where you can mount them flat on something, put extra bolts in there if you need to. But the biggest thing is the bearings that are in them. You can see where with those bearings in there, it takes all the resistance out of this thing. This thing's just going to spin perfectly fine with no problems. Especially once I go and put, like, say, a shirt or jacket or something like that on them, it's going to have very little to no resistance whatsoever when I go to do it. And it's going to have a really nice, smooth movement to it, which is what you want. You don't want it to be all like, like jockey back and forth and stuff like that because that doesn't look natural and stuff like that. So if you ever have like an old caster wheel that's gone bad, but the bearing and all that stuff is still in good shape, hold on to these. They're great for little projects. And like I said, I've used them in the past, not necessarily for Halloween stuff generally, but I have used them for other projects where I needed something that gave me a bearing system or a low resistance, kind of a function, I guess you can say. So that right there is going to be the nice little key piece that's going to make this thing work, hopefully, like I want it to. So let's keep tinkering with this. All right, so next I got to figure out how big my linkage needs to be. So I'm just going to mark how far I want him to sway back and forth and then just measure from those points. All right, so I have myself a little bit of a miscalculation here. I forgot to take into consider of how tall the motor is with the little bracket on top there. So you can see where my piece actually is kind of goes below it. Let me get on this side so you can see it a little better. You see where it's going to go below it. So how I'm going to essentially remedy this issue is since I have that steel plate that's on the bottom here, I'm just going to cut this off flat right here, right against the edge of the steel, cut a new piece of lumber that I can anchor to the bottom of the steel and bring that out, and that will bring the motor down to about this area, which would pretty much hit it right where it needs to be. So just a small little miscalculation, so nothing major. Just going to go ahead and cut that off, put a new piece, and then we'll be able to test this thing out to see how well it moves. I could always just take this bracket right here and just move it up and fix the problem, but I really want to try to keep this as low profile as I possibly can, so this way whatever clothes I put on there, I'm able to hide it behind it. So really just cutting that piece of wood off, putting another piece down there, and lowering the motor down really isn't that much more work, and it's going to give me what I want. I went with this particular kind of linkage because I feel it's going to give me the most torque, especially once I have the clothing on them. All right, so we got it all screwed in place. Looks like here we go. You'll see where I'm going to have that little pause in between as he turns. So the next step is I got to put something across here. So this way when I bring the shirt or jacket down, I have an area to kind of staple it to kind of make it look like it's tucked into his pants essentially. And it'll also help make sure it doesn't interfere with the mechanism. Dress it up back here. Because most of it's going to be inside that mausoleum, so you're not going to see all this back section anyways. You're really only going to see just from here forward, essentially. And then I got to build a support for the arm, so this way it holds the lantern, and then just kind of dress everything up. Now, all I'll be using to hold the arm up is a piece of 1/8 inch round stock. I'm just going to bend it to the shape that I need to hold the arm where I want it to be. Then I'll be welding a piece of flat stock to the back side of it, and that's what's going to give me an anchoring point screwed into that electrical conduit that's going up inside the skeleton. All right, so the mechanism seems to be working really good. He's holding the lantern. The arm's supporting it pretty good. So this portion is done for the moment. The next step is I got to start working on building the mausoleum that he'll be standing somewhat inside of. Let's get on that next. Okay, so with the character being built, I can go ahead and measure that to figure out the height of the door opening and the overall height of the mausoleum itself. I'm going to go ahead and make the door opening a few inches taller than the character so it looks a little bit more natural, and the mausoleum, when completed, should be close to 7 feet when done. I kind of show where I'm at the moment. I got the main shape cut out. I got all the wood glued to the backside. I added these extra pieces right here because I'll be adding these pieces right here. What those pieces are for, those are for the pipes that are going to come up. So this way I have something solid, to anchor to. So this way, as I'm picking it up and moving around, I don't have all that extra stress putting just on the foam like down here in this corner. It'll spread the load across the entire thing. So that's what that's for. But I got to let all the caulking dry, so we'll get back on it tomorrow. The plan for this mausoleum right here is to use a couple PVC pipes in the front to make it look like columns. Now right here I'm slowly building out the front side of it using that PL 300 caulking that I like to use to hold everything in place. Now with the main structure stood upright, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the pipes. These are just going to be little brackets that are going to go inside of it. This is going to give me a nice anchoring point to hold everything in place. Alright, so what I'm doing right now is at the bottom of the pipe, I want to do a little bit of a bead detail. So I'm taking this PVC pipe right here, I filled it full of sand so it would hold its shape, used the heat gun, heated it up really good, and now I'm wrapping it around the pole. I'm going to use the blowgun to cool it off so this way it hardens and retains that shape. And then I'm going to take my angle grinder, I'm going to cut it straight across. And I got to reheat it again just a little bit so I can push it back down so it's nice and even. Then after that I'll have a nice little ring to put at the bottom of my base. Picked up a couple of cheap flower pots that are going to go at the top of the pipe to kind of give it that little bit of a flare. Now for just a quick dry fit to make sure everything is going to line up like I want it to, add that same little small piece of wood at the bottom just like I did at the top of the pipe to hold everything in place. Okay, so I got the PVC pipes in place. I took those little flower pots, cut them, push them all the way to the top to create like a little decorative top piece. Those PVC pipes you saw me bending was just to try to make a more decorative base at the bottom there. I got one more little piece of trim to put right here. Put the foam for the other half of the roof. Cover my sides with that roof wrap that I like to use to help save weight. One thing I'm doing differently with this one that I've done with all the other ones is I plan on making this one to where it can actually be disassembled and fold up in a way to where it only takes up mainly just mostly the space of that right there. So once I get everything all put together, I'll get my hinges, I'll get them all put on, and we'll see how that works. Now what I'll be adding in the doorway right here is a couple more pieces of 3/4 foam board to kind of create like a step effect going into the opening. I think I'm going to go ahead and try the whole corpsing thing again on this one, just to do something a little bit different. Okay, so I've been kind of working on the character just a little bit while that's been drying. I decided to go with a little bit of like a corpse kind of look. That's definitely not my strong suit just yet. I haven't really done enough of it to gain a good niche for it. Overall, I don't think it looks terrible. But the good thing is it is just that plastic wrap. So if I decide I don't like it, I can literally just cut it off, repaint them, no harm, no foul, which is kind of nice by using the plastic wrap. I was trying to get it more of a natural look as much as possible and not so much as a gruesome, nasty kind of look, I guess you can say. The next step, I do want to get a wig for it, just to kind of give it a little bit more character, on that aspect. I do got to change the pants. They're way too big for this character. It doesn't quite look proportional, so I will be working on that. But I do want to complete them before I make my decision if I'm going to leave it that way or not. So a couple more little things to do to him, but other than that, he's almost done. That should be dry enough for me to start disassembling and show you guys how that thing's going to disassemble and fold up on itself and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and start working on that, get it outside, and start doing some painting. All right, so I went ahead and turned it around so you guys can see it a little better as I take it apart. So the game plan here is how this thing's supposed to come apart is this piece right here is part of this brace right here, and it also kind of blocks off that section and holds the roof. So essentially once I pull these two screws out, 2 screws on the side and a couple screws in the inside, the roof should literally just come right off and fold like a book. And then when I pull this screw out, this brace will slide down. This will fold back, screw to the wall here. That brace down there will unscrew, come all the way up to here, screw there so it's out of the way. I got a couple screws along the wall that I keep on the inside, and that's what keeps everything nice and rigid because I don't want to just use the hinges only for support. This wall will slide in. Then this wall over here, I framed it out an extra 1.5 inches to compensate for the thickness of this. That one should stack right on top of that one perfectly. And the only thickness is really just going to be about maybe 2 inches worth of material worth between all this and the front section, and that's how wide it should be when it's done. So let's go ahead and start pulling it apart and see how this works out. I got masking tape on that roof, so let me cut that masking tape. So I was using while all the glue is drying. There we go. There's the roof. There we go. That's all the thickness that it's going to be, which is going to make it much easier to store. So let me go ahead and get it outside, reassemble it, and get ready to paint it. All right, I'm going to start with my gray like I normally do to give it one neutral, even tone. Then after that, I'm going to come back with some black. I usually like to do black before anything else to kind of create like run marks or darken any area that I want to make sure is nice and dark. Now this next color I'm going to be using is actually kind of a bit of a custom color that I kind of mixed up. I took some really dark green that I had, mixed in with a little bit of black, and I'm using some heavy diluted water on it and stuff like that to kind of create like that almost dark greenish black tone that these things sort of have when they get really old. Whenever I'm working on my stuff, I like to listen to music. I'm sure you've seen the Bluetooths in my ear a lot of times. I'm always listening to like Sirius XM. I listen to the 80s, 90s, Hair Nation, Turbo, and stuff like that. And right now I'm actually listening to 90s on 9. I'm getting ready to point to my headset. I'm getting ready to do a little small dance. If you made it this far into the video, tell me what song literally just came on. All right, name that tune. All right, so I pretty much got the aging about where I'm going to leave it. I think overall it actually turned out pretty good. I like the look of it. So the next step is I'm going to hang some black bisqueen on the interior walls to kind of black it out, and hang one from the back here as kind of like a flap that keeps the light out but allows me to still get in there if I need to get to my prop and stuff. I would paint it all, but visqueen's a lot cheaper than paint, so I'd rather just do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and get that all put in there. I still got to finish the character up, and then we should be able to wrap this one up. Okay, so I pretty much got the character all done, but for those of you that follow my channel, you know that if things aren't going quite the way I want to or something like that, I'm always changing my mind or changing directions on something like that, and I end up doing that with the character. I just couldn't get things to work out. The shirt just didn't look good. The pants, even though I got a smaller pair, just didn't look good. It just wasn't working, I guess you can say. So I kind of completely switched gears. I have a bunch of costumes I picked up from Spirit Halloween a few years back when they had the 50% off. Now, they don't have a lot of good boy costumes. You know, most of them are like superheroes, stuff like that, but they don't have anything like good Undertaker costumes or anything like that where it's more like a suit or, you know, something like that that's tattered. But they do have a lot of cool like little dresses and stuff like that for, you know, girls, you know, like Ghostly and stuff like that that are tattered up really good and stuff like that. So I have a few of those. So I went that route with this particular one. So I'm going to kind of show you what I come up with, and then we'll show you the whole thing fully assembled. All right, so here's the outfit that I ended up going with. They call it a cemetery bride. So it's all nice and tattered up and stuff like that. So here we are. This is the final result for the character. You see where the dress is all nice and tattered up. I stuck with the corpsing look to it. I made sure that, you know, since the dress doesn't go all the way down, I put the feet on there. So this way you can see the feet coming out the bottom. I have this arm loosely because it's actually going to be attached to the mausoleum. So you'll be able to see how that works in a second. I have this wire that's going to hold it to it. And I painted it gold on the top to kind of make it look like a wedding band. So if anybody actually looks at it that close, they'll see that. So it's just like one of those little details. No one's ever going to catch it, but it's something I put on there because I felt that it should be there. I found myself a wig in the mix of all my Halloween stuff. It's really long, but I think it's kind of cool looking in a way. It kind of makes it look like she was really old or something. Got the lantern on here. So let's go ahead and stick it in the doorway and show you what the thing looks like all together. Okay, so it's all put together, ready for its debut. Let's go ahead and get everything turned on. I'm going to do the lantern first while she's not in motion. Kind of one of those ones that kind of gives you that simulation like there's a flame inside there. I also have another one that's in front of the mausoleum that's going to kind of light it and her up a little bit. So when the lights are out, you can still see some of the details. And here we go. She's in motion. And one thing I kind of want you guys to kind of take a look at is like this part right here. See how I attached the hand to the wall right here? And then the arm is just kind of loosely put together with zip ties. So as she moves back and forth, the arm actually kind of follows it as she turns one direction and it kind of folds back in on itself on the other side. I did that because I thought it was going to give it a little bit more of like a realistic look, a lot more of a natural kind of movement. She's kind of holding onto the wall as she's moving back and forth. Then I also kind of think it added a little bit of a creepy element to it. I mean, that's just kind of my opinion on it. You'll have to let me know what y'all think. But let's go ahead and turn the lights out and see what this thing looks like in the dark. But here we are. This is my cemetery corpse bride prop, standing at the opening of her mausoleum, looking at all the foolish little mortals that are going to be walking past. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way this one came out. I do feel that making that change on the character was definitely a good decision because it just wasn't working before. Like I said, it just didn't look natural, it didn't flow right. This just seems to work really good and just looks really, creepy and stuff like that. So I'm really happy with the way this one turned out. I also like the fact that I modified the mausoleum to be, to where it folds on itself essentially, to where I can actually store it much easier than previous ones. So that was definitely a big game changer for storage purposes for this one. So I hope y'all enjoy seeing how this thing disassembles and collapses on itself. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. We'll see you guys on the next one, and thanks for watching.